Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Junior Developer Happy Hour, React 30 edition. Been doing this every Sunday night. We're doing the JavaScript 30 exercises. So far, we haven't missed a Sunday. We're on day 14. This is by Wes Boss. If you're not familiar, JavaScript 30, the website is just javascript30.com. He does the exercise in vanilla JavaScript, but we've been doing it in React just to see the difference of like how you do these exercises in React to like for people learning React or just people who want to come and hang out. Yeah, my name is Sam. For if there's new people here, I'm not sure if anybody's new. I am a front-end developer at Strike, which is a payments app. You'll probably see us in the news this week if you haven't already. I'll let you look up what the news is. I don't want to draw too much attention to it before the press comes knocking on my door. I used to work at Lyft. I live in Tulsa now. I joined Tulsa Remote. It's a program that pays you $10,000 to move to Tulsa. So check out tulsaremote.com if you're interested in figuring out how to do what I did. Also, in case there are new people here, it's my LinkedIn if you want to follow me on LinkedIn. But yeah, I guess we can jump straight into it. We use Code Sandbox. Let me put my screen down. And I apologize in advance if I type stuff that really don't make sense because I just got back from Miami. As you can see, I'm all red. So my brain might not be functioning. And for people who always come, my brain always doesn't function at certain points. So it might be worse today. We do the React one. Let's see. And then this is super informal. You can just ask questions anytime if you're like super confused or if you don't want to talk out loud, you can post your question in the chat. Hopefully I see it. Sometimes I miss the chat questions though. So let me give you the link if you want to open up another tab in case you want to like try it and type stuff. Sometimes we all program stuff. Sometimes I just do it. It depends what you guys want to do. But today's one was the object and arrays reference first copy. So for people who are just listening to me and Etienne talking, if you came in earlier, it's just like I was telling him in front end, most of the time you do it by copying, but it's like, even though most of the time you do make a copy, it's good to know the difference between copy and mutation. And I actually take that back at the end. You don't always do copy. Sometimes you do mutate in a local variable. Like if there's a local function, then sometimes in there you'll do mutation just because it's easier. But like generally it's seen as a bad pattern. Like usually you make a copy of the array or the object. So that's that. And usually we copy this. So he doesn't have that much code today to copy, but there's a bunch of comments to kind of lead the way. And I'm gonna copy all the comments because I watched the video a couple hours ago, but I don't remember everything he did in the video. So the comments are like, help me figure out. And also we don't just do what he does. I usually just make stuff up and like render components and stuff. So what I was thinking is, copy this over, and then I wanted to like JSON pretty print stuff in React. I don't know if you ever did that before, but I was gonna make like a component. So instead of console logging in his examples, for the people that did watch the videos, he does like, he demonstrates the example, what happens like if you do by reference. If you set a variable by reference to another array or object, and then he just console logs it. But I want to render it with like components. So one way you can do that in React is you can pretty print the JSON objects, since we're going to be working with arrays and objects, which is both valid JSON. So I was going to make a function called JPP just for short. It just stands for JSON pretty print. In my IDE, I have all kinds of shortcuts. So like one shortcut is I type JPP. It doesn't make a React component like this, but it does the console log version of JSON pretty print, which is you'll see in a minute. So do this, and actually we can do JSON is the object. I think we can just do pre-tag. We might have to play around with it a little bit. So if you do JSON.stringify the JSON no 2. So if you look at the docs for stringify, for people who've never done stringify with like these other options, because normally if you stringify, you just pass in the JSON, but there are other options, you params you can pass to stringify, arguments you can pass to stringify. So now there's like a replacement function. You can go read the docs to see what that does. You can do execute program. I learned a bunch about the replacement function on executeprogram.com. They have like a JavaScript arrays course, which is good. I did it even though I've been doing JavaScript for 8 years. I still learn stuff. And then 2 is like how many spaces to like indent the JavaScript object. I'll show you the difference for people who've never done this. So I'm gonna render this players thing. So I'm gonna get rid of this like hello code sandbox thing and just show you an example of this JPP component. And then actually, instead of JSON, let's do yeah, and I wasn't destructuring that JSON. So let's do this. That way I can just do this, and then I'll do, actually, let me do JSON. Sorry, I don't want to show you. So we go like this, and do JSON. And then, what is this, players? So the JSON pretty print comes out like that. I wasn't expecting it to come out like that. Let's see what that does. What if we just did, let's see. So I wanted to show you what it looks like without the no 2. That comes out better. I guess for the objects, it might look better because let me try do person. Like if you do person. So we're gonna get to all the questions, but I just wanted to do this setup because this is how we're gonna like see the difference between all the things. So this comes out like this, but if we do, what does it look like? Oh, you know what's screwing it up? I think the CSS is screwing it up. This. Boom, that's what I thought it was gonna look like. So yeah, let's leave in this null too, because if, let me do it again without that. It's just like this, but then if the object is big, it's like hard to like look at it. So by putting the null, it's kind of like, it kind of prettifies it, and then it just indents like with 2 spaces. That's what the 2 means.
Oh, the 2 is the 2-space indent?
Yeah, Yeah, it's in the docs on the, if you go to MDN, it's on stringify. I can let me just drop this in the chat. This is like, this is a good way to just debug like data. Like then you don't have to pop open the console. You can just like see it in the screen. So those are the two things. So West Boss does a thing. There's different ways to make copies of an array, and we've gone over this in like past weeks. And so the first time he wanted to show if you copy it by reference. So like he said, I think he did team and then players. Reference meaning you're making a new variable called team, but you're just pointing it at the same thing that players is pointing to. So if we do, let's do this. Players. Let's do team. So let me see if I can. So you can see it did make a. It looks like it made a copy, right? It's the exact same thing as West Sarah, Ryan, Poppy, West Sarah, Ryan, Poppy. But he says what happens when you make an update to an array. So if you do team 3 equals Sam, you can see it updated Sam in both of the arrays because so when you're new to like JavaScript, this like probably confuses a lot of people. They're like, what the hell? I updated team, not players. But like, since you did it by reference, that's what this whole JavaScript 30 day is about. And if you haven't done the vanilla one, I would go back and do that one too, just so like you can get it more into your brain. Because some things just take a lot of repetition for it to like stick in your brain. All we did is we pointed team to the same array in memory that players is pointing to. So when we updated the number 3 element in the array, since they're both pointing at this array in memory on the computer, both of the arrays updated Poppy to Sam. So that's probably not what you wanted, right? So let's see. So he's doing one way to be actually let's leave this one and then let's make team 2. Actually, let's make the name easier. That's the names he used, but let's do team by reference. Then it makes more sense. It's easier to read if you like come back. Oops. And then, oops, what did I do? So he's explaining that what I just told you, you edited the original array when maybe you didn't want to do that. So there's multiple ways, like in JavaScript, there's multiple ways mostly to do everything, right? So one way you do it, we did this the other week with the Konami code. For people that were here, if you weren't, it's up on YouTube. I can give you the YouTube channel too. I don't have Kiki here to give you guys the links. Let's see. So I have a playlist actually. So If you want to check out past ones, Konami code, we did some array copying in that one. If you missed that one. And one way to do it, so team by slice equals, so one way to copy is by just slicing the array. So if you do players slice, now if I did team by slice, actually let's comment this one out. I take that back for now. So if you do team by slice 3 equals Sam, we're gonna see a difference here. Let's bring this back. So as you can see now, it's Sam in here and it's Poppy on this one, because slice makes a complete copy. It just makes a whole new array and it copies all the elements that were in that array. So players points to one array and then team by slice points to another array in memory now. They're not pointing to the same one, which is what happened when we did it like this. Is there any questions about that? Nope. Okay. Go on then. And I'm going to show you a few different ways to do it, but it's personal preference. But most people nowadays use the ES6 spread way. But as you can see, sometimes I still use slice and sometimes I use concat for people that have been here. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Most of them, for me at least, they're all like I can understand by just looking at it. So it's personal preference, but it's good to know all the different ways. So when you're reading the code, like different people do it different ways, and if you don't know all the ways to do it, you might get confused. So concat is another way. You can do team by concat equals. So the way to do it with concat is just to concat to an empty array. So you do players and then copy. I'm just gonna put this down there. Team by concat. So team. So you can see Sam Poppy again because we made a copy. So these two do the same thing, it's just different ways to make copies of the array. And now for the most modern way that people do it, people do team by spread equals, they spread the whole array in there. Spread. Sam team by spread. So same thing, Sam, Poppy. These are 3 different ways to like make a copy of an array, but like most modern JavaScript code you look at, people, I would say most people like are doing it like this. But me personally, I still use all 3. And I don't know why, like sometimes I just use one and sometimes I use the other one. My brain just picks different ones sometimes. I don't know. I don't understand how my brain works. That just that's just what it does. So that is arrays, and same thing with objects. But objects, so you gotta be careful because objects can be like I guess arrays too. If you have arrays of objects, it gets more complicated because when you're spreading the array, no, actually, that's not a good example. I'll show you the object example. He just explained that it's only one level deep when you make a copy with the spread, and I'll show you what that means. So first, we can look what the example looks like with copy. So if I did person copy person, and then say let's print both of them. Let's comment out this just to make it less noisy. And then we do JPP JSON equals what did I call it? Person by reference. So you can see it looks like a copy, but if we do like we did before, where we do person by reference dot age equals 50, it changed both of them. So it's the same problem with the array, right? We're pointing both the variables at the same object in memory. So if I update age on this one is also going to update because they're pointing at the same like slots in memory where the data is actually stored on disk. So you usually don't want to make a copy by reference. So we don't want to do this. We want to make a copy instead. So I'm going to skip the different ways to do it because most people just use spread now. Arrays you still see all three kind of common, even though I think this is the most common nowadays. But for objects, ever since spread objects came out, I think mostly everybody uses, I could be wrong, but I almost always only use spread. So, but you got to be careful with the spread because what he says down here. But first, let me show you what the spread does. So for the person copy spread equals, and the person, that should copy all the key value pairs in the person. So then if I do person copy by spread dot age equals 50, then I do this. And you can see only this one got, I should update this. Now this one changed to 50 and this one didn't change, and that's what we wanted to do. So this is how you can easily make a copy of another object. Where you run into problems with, you could run into problems with that is if it has another layer deep, like another object in here. So this is Twitter. No, I don't think Jack Darcy has on Facebook. Maybe he does. Oh, we're doing Wes Boss though. I don't know what Wes Boss's Twitter is. I don't know. Let's just put Wes Boss. And let's put Wes Boss. So now if we do no, how did he demonstrate this? Sorry, now I'm getting my Miami brain, my sunburn. I forget what he did in the video to demonstrate the. So if you copy all of that, let's just see what it looks like first. Present copy by spread. Oh, yeah. So
yeah, I think he changed like age to show that that one is behaving like a copy, but then he changed the Facebook value
okay, that's
and
good.
showed that it, it acted like a reference.
So that Facebook equals yep. So the age worked like the copy, but you can see the Facebook. Oops, we just caused a bug in the app. We tried to update this copy to ASDF and we accidentally copied to this. And I guarantee you this bug exists probably in so many apps on the internet because people don't realize that this is happening. They think when they spread is making a copy of the whole array, the whole object. But it only does it one level deep. So once it has a second level deep, if this was an object, some objects go deep, it's nested. There's like object, object. So you got to be careful, like how you do it. Like one way you could do it here, he doesn't do this in the video, but like you'll see this in like Redux and stuff. So you could do, I think you could do, if my brain is working, you could do, now it worked because, but it was more work, right? I had to like do this, and then I made a copy of this level, and then I made a copy of this level. So
yeah, and you would have to do that for each one that's nested, right?
So there's a better way with the almighty Lodash, which is an awesome for people who haven't used that. There's an awesome utility library. Most projects you work on, people have Lodash in there. There's a lot of super useful ones, and he mentioned down here there's one called Clone Deep, but he does say you should think twice before using it because it can be expensive to run the operation. If your objects are huge, it might be noticeable performance degradation on your app, like depending on how you're using it. So if you don't have to, like if your thing is only this simple, I would just do something like this. If it is really complicated, then maybe reach for the Lodash, but like try and make sure that it doesn't cause any jank on the page or like just make the user experience worse. So we can try to use this. So clone deep will just recursively clone it. A good exercise might, it actually is an interview question. If you're practicing for interviews at the end, you said you're practicing interview questions. A good way to practice for interviews is just try to like write Lodash functions, like popular Lodash functions, like from scratch, like pretend Lodash didn't exist. And you're like, how do I make a clone deep function? Like, how do I make it automatically like clone so I don't have to manually go and look for all the nested objects and like do it like this? So you can write a recursive function to do that. And there's no way my brain would like figure that out right now. So we're just gonna use Lodash. So we'll do import, what is it? Clone deep. I think I can import it like this. Lodash. I think you can just import like the object. There's different ways to like you can import the whole library for Lodash, or you can just import some specific functions like this. Well, at least I think you can. So let's do person copy by clone deep. So this one will just be clone deep person, and then we do, let's do these two, but then we'll do this to that one. So this time it worked again. ASDF, this one stayed West Boss 50, this one stayed 80. And if you look at the code, is way cleaner than this solution, right? So it's a trade-off. Like by using Lodash, you got to bring in a dependency, but it improves the readability of your app. And everybody uses Lodash. The only time I wouldn't do that is like if performance like really mattered in your app and you need to keep the bundle size small, and you don't have time to figure out tree shaking and all that stuff. That's like more advanced like build topics. Why did it import clone? I don't need that. Did I type that by accident? Because you can still make it import only this function, which would not increase your bundle size too much. But it's easy to like think you only imported that function, but it actually included the whole Lodash in your bundle, and you need to use tools to figure out like if you did that by mistake or not. So there's all these kind of trade-offs. Most of the time, I just include Lodash. But if you did have to worry about bundle size. Sometimes you can just roll your own and just write it yourself so that you make sure you only have that function. But just be careful. Like Lodash has been battle tested. Like developers all around the world use that app and contribute to the project. So it's battle tested. All the functions work great. I doubt there's any bugs left. This library's been around for years. I mean, maybe they introduced bugs, but I would think the functions are pretty like ossified already. Maybe they are. I don't know. I haven't looked at the GitHub if they're still tinkering with it to make it better. But I highly recommend it. So see, look how clean that is, man. It's great. Try to make your code look like this. And Westboss does show one more way to do it, which is a janky clone deep, which is definitely not as performant. Well, I shouldn't say definitely because I didn't actually time it, but I'm pretty sure is way worse performance. It's by doing stringifying it and then parsing it again. So person stringify and parse. So the way you do that is you do JSON. So this is what you do when you're running out of time on a project and you need to push it. And this is like the last resort when you just need something to Oh, what did I do? Pressing. So do that and then copy this. So as you can see again, it worked. ASDF was plus 50, 50, and then 80. So this works too, but it's probably not as performant. It's more error prone because JSON parse is like really finicky. If it's not a JSON, it just explodes. Like what if I do? I don't know. Is a string that might make it explode? Yeah, it just explode. Oh, it didn't explode because of that though. Let's see. Does it explode? No, a string is a valid JSON. What's not a valid? No. Undefined. Yeah, undefined blows it up, but I don't know what that error is. But it is more error prone. Like you would have to consider edge cases. By using Lodash, they cover all the edge cases for you, and so you don't have to worry about it. So Lodash is great. But also readability. This is definitely not as readable as this, right? At least I don't think so. You have to think about it. You're like, what is this doing? And then what is this doing to that thing? You have to do more mental gymnastics to like think about what that thing is doing. But you could just make a function called clone deep and then make it equal to this. Because then you could just do this. You could do this. So if I take this out and then I said, then it still works. Like even though if I did this, it still works. This is using our janky clone deep instead of the one from Lodash. But I recommend just using the one from Lodash. I just wanted to show you that if you did want to do something janky like this, like who knows, maybe you're just playing around on a project, you know, and you don't want to bring in dependencies, you're just making some vanilla app. Then who cares, right? You're just making some janky app, just make your own clone deep. And then you don't need to bring in a dependency. So that's just one way to improve the readability in your app. Hide the janky stuff you're doing somewhere else so that when you're using the function, people don't need to worry about how you did it. They just understand that it clones the whole object. Okay, that was mostly wanted to. I'll do one more thing, but I'll just stop for questions now. And anybody have questions about anything about copy by reference or all the different methods that we went over to make an actual copy of the array or object?
I guess I got one question, which I might have the answer to already, but the one level deep, when you use the spread operator, it's for arrays. So that would be if you have nested arrays, it would reference the nested array.
Yeah, you have the same problem.
Copy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can use maybe in Lodash they have arrays too in the clone deep. Yeah, and see in their example they actually use an array of objects, and that is still a good use case for when you want to use clone deep. The only time you don't want to use clone deep and use spread is if it's an array of like primitive, like awareness array of strings. But I'm sure I probably made that mistake a bunch of times. It's just that you might not have a bugs just because you did that. As long as you're not mutating things, like you might not run into bugs. Like we're running into bugs because we're like mutating like the number inside of the array. But like in React, most of the time they try to stay away from mutating the values in object and arrays just to avoid unintentional bugs like that. So usually they just make copies of everything. They don't try to set values in the array. So like read only when they like extract the data and then put it in a new variable to use it. So because you probably see that a lot where they're just spreading the array, even though it's objects, which could lead to bugs like that we just showed. So yeah, that's why people like to stick to a more functional approach where you don't mutate the values inside of an array or an object. Any other questions? No. I wanted to go over, I don't think that person's here this week, but like a couple weeks ago, I think when we did the Konami code, someone was asking like why we didn't push the new values into the array and use state. So I was gonna show that. So equals. Do nums. Okay, so I'm gonna put some more inputs. Let's see, so we got that. Let's see. Button. Oh, let's not do on change. Let's just okay. Yeah, let's do this. So we'll just make it whenever it changes, it just pushes the number into the array. So see, we got nums, and then let's display the num. So each one. Do oh, let's pretty print it. What am I doing? So it should be empty. I'm gonna comment out all this stuff first. So it's an empty array because we start with just one, and then maybe on change we'll do. Somebody asked why we didn't do this last time. We did dot push. So if we do this, it's not updating, right? That's one problem when you push it in, you get into weird bugs like this. Like when you set the array to a new value, it should re-render, right? But because it's still the same array, it doesn't re-render. So you can run into all kinds of weird bugs like that. So instead of pushing, we could do concat like we did. And then concat returns a new array. So you can be updated nums equals that. This is how we did it that other week when we did the Konami code, I think. So let me refresh. So 1, 2. So now it's updating like you expected. Every time the number updates, it updates because I'm setting the nums to a new array and React knows I got a new value for the array. I got to re-render the page. If you don't update the reference, it doesn't re-render the page. So I just wanted, that's just one of the weird bugs you can have if you don't pass in a new value. Like it's an anti-pattern in React to mutate the state values. So that's just one reason. I'm just trying to demonstrate one of the bugs that you can run into if you ignore that anti-pattern and you try to mutate the state in your that you're using from your use state function. So you always want to update a new array, and like, so you can do it like that. You can do it like this. You can do nums e dot target value. That's probably a more concise way to write it, which most people are probably already like that, I think. But like I said, it's like it's personal preference. But this is like probably the most common. Like this is kind of like a terse way of pushing a new value into an array, but also making a copy instead of mutating the old array, because you're spreading all the old values and then at the end of the array, you're putting in the new value at the end of the array. So it's a nice like short way to make a copy of an array and push a new value onto the array. So I just wanted to show you guys that. I didn't demonstrate this. I think we just used the concat the last time. Also, we didn't talk about, I also thought the last time, I don't know if anybody was here, I thought this was immutable just because I never mutated because that's the anti-pattern. So I thought I read that it was immutable, and then like we tried it out and I could actually mutate the array, and I was like, oh, I guess you can mutate it. You just shouldn't do that. And I wanted to demonstrate why you shouldn't do that. So that's why I wanted to show you that it doesn't re-render. Even though you called set nums with the array again, the page didn't re-render again. When that's what you expect. You expect whenever you call the set functions to the page to re-render, but it doesn't do that when you when you don't pass in a new array. But yeah, I think that's everything. And now, if anybody has any questions, you can ask now, either about anything we did or anything in general. I've been doing this stuff for like 8 years. So if you have any questions about the industry or JavaScript or Tulsa or Bay Area, no questions?
I'd love to just say hi to everybody. This is my first time
Hey,
joining
how's
this
it
group.
going?
I recently found you guys on Meetup, and I just finished a coding boot camp and onto the job search. Um,
Which
it
coding
seems like
bootcamp?
there's several people. I did General Assembly's Software Engineering Immersive.
Okay.
Um, just finished a week ago. So yeah, hello to everybody. Ben
How's
Bradfield
it
here.
how's it going? Let me get you. Are you in our Slack by any chance?
I don't think so.
Well, we have a Slack group if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm on
Uh,
there
if you want to
plenty.
like meet people, we have a channel called Virtual Coffee. If you join that channel, every 2 weeks it automatically pairs you with somebody in our community to like just meet up and video chat. Or if you live in the same city by some chance, you could meet up in person depending on uh, where you live, if you live close enough. Most of the time we just do like 15-minute video chat. I think some people end up chatting for like a couple hours though. But yeah, that's one channel. Some people don't know what that channel is, so I forgot to explain. I brought up our Slack before, but I forgot to explain that that's one of the good channels to join if you're like, especially if you just graduated a boot camp, like you should try and meet as many people as you can. um, because that's how I got all my jobs. Um, is just from meeting tons of people. So highly recommend just going to meetups and work on an open source project if you can, do hackathons, hang out in people's Slack, offer to help like in the Slack, all that kind of stuff. It, it might not pay off immediately, but like in like as you build up all these relationships, it makes it a lot easier to like um, get jobs and stuff like that.
Definitely my goal right now. So thank you.
Yeah, just don't give up. It can be hard. Your first job is definitely, I would say, the hardest. Just trying to break into the industry because nobody solved this damn chicken and the egg problem where everybody needs developers, but they don't want to be the first person to like see if you're like ready to be a developer. So once you have like one job on your resume, then they're like, oh, this other company hired them. I'm gonna bring them in for an interview too. um, it's just human psychology, and nobody's figured out how to like. Well, people trying all different kinds of things. My first startup um, was actually pretty good. They gave me a 1 month contract first, so they still paid me, but I didn't have benefits and I didn't get equity or anything. Uh, and they said, let's just do 1 month. They're gonna pay me the same amount they would as if I was being hired full time. But if they decided it wasn't working out, then like we're just done after 1 month. So it was like a trial period, and it worked out. So, but I wish more companies did that. I don't know why they don't do that. I think that's a good way to do it. um, it's kind of hard with the interview process because people can game the interview process too. Some people just like, especially if it's going to be like algorithms or something, people are just like master like all the algorithms. And then when they come on the job, they're like, build this, and then they can't build it because all they did was master the algorithms. Um, so the whole interview process still needs to be cracked. But in my experience, the best way is just get people to vouch for you because humans are like that. Like if somebody tells them this person can do it, they're like, okay, let's bring them on then. They'll just take their word for it.
One of the stats we got in our outcomes is what it's called, the career coaches. Like 80% of jobs are through connections instead. It's not through resumes. Only like 20% of jobs actually are
Because
gotten through resumes. So
I mean, if you're the hiring person too, like, do you really want to like try and shuffle through resumes? It's so hard to like tell if somebody will be a good candidate by looking at their resume, unless they have like
everyone's
stuff
the
that
same.
unless they have stuff that really stands out. But if it's all the same, they went to a boot camp, computer science degree, and there's nothing that like really stands out, like, I built this thing and I got thousands of users. If you have that on your resume, then you get way more chance of getting hired, because that's impressive. Like, that will stand out. Like when the person's like reading through the resumes, they're like, oh, this person built the app and they had thousands of users, which is not an easy thing to do. That kind of stuff would stand out. But if all you have is you never built any production apps, or there's nothing other things that can make you stand out on your resume, if it's just something interesting. Like, I mentored a student at Lambda School before, and he was a professional poker player before, and he won like millions of dollars. So I remember that when I just looked at his resume. That was because that's not a normal thing you see on somebody's resume, and that like stands out. You're like, you want to ask them, how did you do that? Like, how did you win millions of dollars playing poker online? So that's why the resume thing is hard. Is
Why is he not still doing that? That's my question. He obviously knew what he was doing.
I don't know. Like, I think people wanna leave their mark on the world, and like, I don't know if you can do that playing poker unless you're like some superstar. Then at least you're providing entertainment for like the world. But yeah, I don't know. Software engineering is more. It's also more steady. Like, that job's not going away. At least I'm pretty confident that developers are gonna stay in high demand for the near future. I think the demand is gonna increase actually. So yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, please join with that Slack link as well. This is also my first time.
Oh, hey, how did you find the meetup?
It was recommended to me in another junior developer group.
Okay, awesome. Did you go to a boot camp too?
I had my first day yesterday.
Oh, you first day at a boot camp?
Yes.
Well, awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
This might have been a little advanced then maybe for you, but it's good to.
I've never never written.
Yeah,
I've never written my own React code before, but I understood all the.
Oh, that's good for your first.
I understand the code that's listed.
That's good for your first day at boot camp then. Yeah, join the Slack. If you got questions, you can always pop in there. It's not a super active Slack, but the virtual coffee is definitely one just to meet people. And then we have like a Stack Overflow channel for if you want to ask questions about something you're stuck on or whatever, and you don't want to post it on the actual Stack Overflow because it can be scary to post stuff on there as a noob sometimes. So
I do have one question that shows my inexperience with React. The self-closing tags that are on line, say 89 of the sandbox, the self-closing part is mandatory, correct?
Yeah.
The slash.
Yeah, like, yeah. I don't know if it's it might work in the browser. I'm not sure. It might depend how you have your build set up, but like Code Sandbox definitely blows up, and
Okay,
you should.
it's a JSX thing according to that error.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's for
Yeah.
JSX reasons.
Yeah, you should always include it. Anyways, even if your build system might be able to like figure it out and transpile the code correctly, I'm not sure. I use Prettier for everything, and Prettier usually like fixes all those kinds of stuff. Prettier is a library that just formats your code, so you don't need to think about code style. So in the past, when you did like PRs, developers used to waste so much time just commenting on like, I don't like that you put this all on one line. What do you think? Can you put it in like, make a space here and put it down here? There's been so many hours lost in dev time just from people nitpicking about code style that somebody made a library called Prettier, and Code Sandbox actually uses it. That's why like if I don't have a semicolon here, I save and it just adds the semicolon, because of the default rules in Prettier will just it just formats your code automatically, so you don't have to, you just type your code and you can just keep typing and saving, and it just formats the code. And then now when you do PRs, like you don't have to like comment on the style of the code, because the code should look all the same, because everybody's code gets auto formatted. So in most companies, at least that I've worked at, like we always have Prettier in all the code bases, and it should auto format it so that when you push it up to GitHub, it's already formatted. I don't need to run a command to like format it or anything. So it's, yeah, I can bring it up just for people who are not familiar with it. It's a good
Prettier should be like the first thing that you first extension you get on VS Code. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, any project, Prettier is like is like the first library you put into as a dependency when you're working with a team, especially, just so all the code looks the same, because developers, everybody's brain works differently, right? So like people people like to format things different ways because it looks better, it's easier for them to understand. But like once you don't have to think about it and you just accept that's how Prettier formats it, your brain just adjusts, and you can tell, like eventually you can kind of tell that the code was formatted by Prettier. So I like in the beginning when you first start using it, you might want to start like configuring options and stuff, but Prettier on purpose doesn't let you configure like a little bit, but it's not super configurable. Like you can't configure like a ton of things, because that would defeat the purpose. Then the code doesn't look all the same, because every project somebody made different rules on it and it looks way different. So they tried to make it like opinionated, but like over the years people have like complained a lot about some stuff. I forget what things, but like some things are controversial, you know, like semicolons. Like some people are like no semicolons, some people are like semicolons. So Prettier lets you configure semicolons. Like the really controversial stuff, they'll let you configure. But yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, what's up, Tade? Okay, I'm gonna hit the bed now. Oh, you got another question?
One more beginner question. Do
Yeah.
these occur weekly?
I've been trying to do them weekly. So far we've done it weekly. So I skipped that in the announcement. We've been doing this every Sunday. Junior Developer Happy Hour is not just this React not just React30 things. Junior Developer Happy Hour actually started as we did AMAs with people in the industry. So I can give you videos if you want to check those out. We're taking a break from doing that right now just because we were doing it for like a whole year, like every Saturday. And now that like stuff is opening up again, the attendance started going down a little bit. So we're like, well, let's just take a break. Like we did it every Saturday for like a whole year. But we had like people from GitHub and Google and Netflix and all these companies, and we used to bring them on every Saturday, and just like 50 junior developers would just come and just ask them questions. These are pretty good. Like this one, this one was actually not a ask me anything. It was we had Leanne come on and do an AMA, and that was a really popular one. She's a career coach at App Academy, and we invited her back. She did a presentation on how to kickstart your job search in 2021. So yeah, if you're looking for a job now, you can check this one out. We timestamp all the questions if you look in here so you can see specific questions. But we do that. Whatever we can think of. I don't know what I'll do next after we do all these JavaScript 30 things. I've done mock interviews. I'm a front-end developer, so I used to do some interviews at Lyft. I worked at Lyft before, and so I kind of did some easier version. I tried to model it kind of off of the type of interviews I did at Lyft, but I made it easier for like more junior developers, because at Lyft, like it's really hard to get into Lyft as a junior developer. Like the way in would be through as a junior developer is either internship if you doing a comp sci program at university, or there's an apprenticeship for non-traditional backgrounds, which they have. Internship is twice a year, I think, summer, winter. Apprenticeship is only 1 year, once a year, because the apprenticeship is like 8 months long or something like that. It's super long, and there's you have a better chance of making it into a company like Lyft like that. And it's really hard to get in without experience. Like most of the positions require like 5 years experience at Lyft. But some people do get in like as a junior developer without going through, but it's really hard. But yeah, I would do mock interviews with people, but I would make it like easier to like try to like figure out more a junior level like type of front end practical interviews, because that's what we did at Lyft. We didn't do the algorithms and data structures stuff, at least for the front end. They used to before, but because I interviewed at Lyft twice, I didn't get an offer the first time, and a year later I went back. So I don't know if people know that too. Like just because you get turned down doesn't mean you can't apply again. I interviewed at Facebook 3 times. I never did get an offer, but like every 6 months I like interviewed again, and I'm kind of glad I never did get an offer though. Like now that I think about it, like I don't want to work at Facebook. So
Do I?
so it kind of works out. I like the company I'm working at now, so things just work out. You just gotta not give up and just keep going. There's so much stuff to learn. Like I like I said, I still go back and I still do like fundamental kind of courses, because I'm like, I might still learn something new, which I did on, I mentioned execute program because I like that one. I think it's free for like, you get 16 free lessons and then you gotta pay like 20 bucks a month. So depending on your financial situation, to me, I think all education is most of the time worth it. Unless it's like the college and it costs like $50,000 a semester, then I'm not sure if that's worth it, the return on investment. But stuff on the internet that's like 20 bucks a month, that's nowhere close to like $50,000, right? 20 bucks a month, you do a whole year of it. I'm pretty guarantee you're gonna get a good return on investment from like spending 20 bucks a month and doing an execute program. Like you're gonna see that come back. It's gonna pay off a lot, especially if it helps you get your first job.
Can you explain this execute program a little bit more? They
It's
teach you
learning.
different technologies?
Yeah, so they have only a few courses. Where's all the courses? These are, I first signed up for TypeScript because I got hired at Lyft and they do all TypeScript and I never used TypeScript before. So just to ramp up quicker, I did this. I also got a TypeScript book. Like, so I like to combine like doing hands-on stuff and reading a book and watching videos. But I ended up doing all of these. I did regex arrays. I even did the JavaScript arrays. That's why I was mentioning, I forget uh, what I mentioned about the arrays, but I think not the arrays. What was I mentioning? The stringify replacement is inside execute programming, one of the courses too. So these are three of them. If you look on courses, there's right now there's 6, and it's learning by repetition. So like it will only let you do a certain amount and then it will stop you and it says you gotta wait and then like a certain amount of time, because like it's like your brain already can't fit more than that. It's like you learn this much, come back tomorrow, and then it's kind of like Duolingo or stuff like that, and then they'll like quiz you on stuff from before to make sure like you're ready to like go to like the next levels, and they'll like keep repeatedly, and they keep going over and over until like they figure out that you mastered it, and then like you'll you'll get to 100% eventually. But yeah, I did all of them except SQL because I don't do backend. I'm pretty much strictly front end developer nowadays. I started out full stack, but then just ended up going mostly just front end. So I skipped this one because I don't write any SQL, or it's very rare. I think I wrote a couple lines of SQL when I was at Lyft. But that is not very common. Usually I just consume APIs or I help collaborate with the backend developers on how to design the API to make it easy for me to use the API. But usually I'm front end and I just use existing APIs or just whatever ways I can get the data. I just usually collaborate with backend people to like, tell them how to give me the data. But yeah, I like this one. And then I think I mentioned it last time. Front End Masters is another one of my favorites. This one is more expensive. You can get free 6 months, I think, with a GitHub education pack. You can get a GitHub education pack with any college email, I think. So the hack to get a college email, if you don't have one, is you can just sign up for a community college course. A lot of places community college is free. I don't know if everywhere is free yet. In San Francisco, it's free for community college. So you can just take like a computer science course like online, and then you get an email, and then you can get free 6 months of front end masters. And then the other one, I've been subscribers of these for like 5 years. So I've spent a lot of money on these, because front-end master is not cheap. Front-end master like $400 or $500 a year or something like that. But to me, that's worth it. So I've spent thousands of dollars already on front-end masters. But if I think about like how much income I've got, probably like jobs I might have not have gotten if I never watched a shit ton of these videos. Like I just watch a lot of Egghead and front-end masters videos. Egghead is cheaper. I don't know how much it is now because I bought it a long time ago, so I'm grandfathered in on the old plan. Like I pay like $99 a year, I think. But I think it's more than expensive than that now. I just keep renewing my subscription so that I can keep the old price. But those are like my favorites. I only did like Udemy, like when I got it free from like work. That's my least favorite. I like Udacity too, but they don't update it with like new content like recently. Or they only update the paid content. So they have these nano degrees. Before they used to add a lot. But they have some good JavaScript stuff on here, but it might be like outdated. And then Theme Treehouse is good for, I like it for like CSS and stuff. They have a lot of CSS courses. And you can check your library. You might be able to get a free account. Like I don't pay for Treehouse. I still use it from my San Francisco library card, and I don't even live in San Francisco anymore. There's all kinds of hacks out there.
What about CSS tricks? Do you think there's a fair amount of worthwhile stuff on there?
Yeah, but I only go to that like when I'm Googling like how to do something, and then CSS tricks always pops up when like you Google
Right. Yeah.
CSS stuff.
Yeah, it's
But,
not
like,
a different kind of a thing. It's not courses. It's just articles, blogs.
Like this, if you look like CSS, there's like tons of things. Like you can just learn about layout, basics, CSS variables, grid, Bootstrap if you want to do Bootstrap, Sass, media queries, SVG, transitions, transforms. So there's like all kinds of stuff. And so you can see all the, like, these are all complete, like those are the ones that I did. And they're all pretty good. I like the Treehouse, like shows you videos and then it gives you like quizzes, or like it tells you to write a little bit of code to like make sure you understood what they were like teaching in the course. And it's pretty all like, it's nothing, they don't have like super complicated, like advanced kind of courses. It's more for like fundamentals. So I like it, but the main thing I like Treehouse for is CSS. I haven't found another. Like front-end masters, I mostly watch JavaScript stuff, React, TypeScript. I try to focus just on the technologies I use. Before, when I was beginning, I tried to like learn everything, and then what I learned is you just forget. If you just try to learn like all this new stuff and you're not using it, at least me, I just forget. So I try to like, if I have a job, I just try to get good at all the stuff I'm learning. Or if I'm working on a project, then I'll learn whatever I need to like do whatever like side project that I'm like working on.
Yeah, I ran into that over the last months when I was trying to prepare, and I just went down all these different rabbit holes. Like, so I knew I needed to learn Node and then React, and then I encountered Express, and then I tried to learn Express, and then it just keeps going on and on.
Yeah, it's really hard because then you like start doing something, and you're like, oh, this looks cool. And then you go down that rabbit hole. You gotta
months
try
later,
and,
I'm like, okay, no.
you gotta try and like make a schedule, maybe like put stuff on your calendar and just be like, okay, this week I'm just gonna figure out all the express stuff and just focus on that. Like if you're building a project, it's easier if you figure out a project to work on, then you can like break it up and like this week I'm gonna figure out how to build all the backend stuff. This week I'm gonna figure out how to do the front end with React or something.
Yeah.
This week I'm gonna make it look good. I'm gonna figure out all the CSS. That way you can break it down. If you're not doing a project and you don't have a structure like a boot camp or something, you don't have a curriculum, you're gonna run into that problem where you like go down all these different rabbit holes because there's like 50 million things you can learn, and then you're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna do this tutorial, and then they'll mention something in the tutorial, and then you're like, I don't know what that is. I'm gonna go learn what that is.
Go on to that.
Oh, then they say this, and then you go learn that. So if you don't have a project, you're always gonna run into that problem. So it's easier to just think of a project to work on and just learn the technology you need to build whatever project you're working on, rather than figuring out what technologies to learn. I think that's a much better strategy. Like, and if you can't think of a project to work on, try to find some open source project to work on. If you don't know what to work on, just go to like Code for America Hack Nights. They have it on meetup.com, I think. And somebody will need help on a project. Code for America. So you might have like a local chapter, depending where you live. If not, since the meetups have moved online, I think you can look up on Meetup. You just type in Code for America.
Okay.
They usually have a meetup every week, and that's how I got my first contract job, at a Code for America night. I used to go there, and like people would just like say what projects they were working on and like ask if anybody can help. So like one time I was there and they're like, we want to build this thing to help people get to know the politicians in their city and stuff like that. And there's like, who knows Ruby on Rails? And I was like, oh, I learned that. I'm still a noob, but I can help you do some stuff. And then I worked on projects. I just found projects to work on. And then I saw somebody there one time and they didn't want to do their contract job anymore. And they just asked me if I wanted to take over. And that's how I got my first contract job. They just handed their job off to me because they didn't want to do it anymore. So.
Yeah, that sounds good. Finding a project.
It's more motivating too, because then when you're working on a project, at least me, I like think about it all the time. Like if I'm stuck on something or if I have to build something, my brain, even in my sleep, would be like thinking about like, how the hell do I do that? And then eventually, like I might think like, oh, that's hard, but let me try to break it down into like different steps. And then I just figure out how to do this little part. And in order to do that, I might do some like tutorials online to like, or I might watch some front end masters to get ideas about like just some, like if I was doing the front end with React, let me watch like the fundamentals Brian Holt React course. And I don't know how to set up the state with Redux or something. Let me just go watch how a professional does it, just to get some ideas. And then I'll come back to my project. And then I'll just go back and forth between like I said, I break it up. Like sometimes I watch courses, sometimes I read books. Sometimes I just ask people like how would you do this? Like I used to do that at meetups, like when we used to have in-person meetups in San Francisco. Just ask random people how they do stuff. If I was like, if I had no idea like how to do something that I was working on.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna go now. Let's wrap it up. I'll see you all next week if you want to stop in again.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Sam.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyway,
Thanks, Sam.
Sam.
All right, see ya.